Hello, welcome back, y'all. It is Kelly Lee, your tarot reader, aromatherapist, herbalist, slash witch, slash all the things. Welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things witchy and tarot related and herbalism and plant related. Today I'm delving into misconceptions that people have about tarot, and then as I go through them, I'm going to talk about how I believe tarot works, how tarot functions with each individual. Number one, a lot of people assume that tarot is for predicting the future, for future forecasting. I believe that, I'm not saying that that's not a possibility, but it is not the only thing that tarot can do. I believe the bulk of what tarot can do is give you guidance on where you are at currently, give you guidance on situations that are happening right now. And if that can help you prepare for the future, if that can help you maybe get an outlook of what is to come, and if that does happen, then that's wonderful. And tarot prepared you for that possibility. But that's exactly what it is. It's a possibility. The future is never certain because every decision we make influences that future and can change it and can tweak it and can make it just a little bit different, right? So I don't believe that tarot is a predictor of the future. Second, and these things kind of have to do with decks themselves. So some people think that you have to be gifted your decks, or at least gifted your first deck. I talked about this in my Witchcraft Red Flags video. I do not believe this. If you want to have that ritual and that like symbolism and that like tradition around you getting a tarot deck, that's fine. I am glad for you that you want to incorporate that into your practice, but it is not an end-all be-all rule, and some people believe it is. And so those who believe it is, who want to get into tarot and who want to start using the cards in their practice, don't do so because they think that they have to be gifted their cards. I do not believe that. I have so many decks of cards. Technically, I was gifted my very first deck by my sister, but I had already been in the process of, which I was like 12, I had already been in the process of trying to purchase my own. I was just saving up the money, because tarot decks are not cheap now or then, really. So I was saving up to get my own, but my sister had bought one and she did not like them, didn't want to continue with them, and so she gave them to me. But that is not how everyone needs to acquire their first deck or any deck thereafter. Having to memorize meanings. I lean very heavily on the side of intuitive reading. I lean very heavily on the side of the artwork on the card will let you know and lean you in the direction that you need to go with the reading. Now, those of you who don't believe in intuitive reading and you want to memorize the meanings and look at the guidebook, whenever you are reading, that is more than okay. But some people think that this is, again, a fast and hard rule, that you have to memorize the meanings, that this is what the card means, it doesn't mean anything else, this, that, and the other. I don't believe that. I have talked many times about the Eight of Wands. The Eight of Wands traditionally means movement, fast movement forward, Just like, whew. I've never gotten that from that card. I have always gotten very stagnant, very blocked energy, a very big feeling of not being able to move forward. And part of that is the traditional artwork in the card just has the wands just like across the but the card. I get a very blocked feeling from that card. So whenever that card comes up in a reading for me or for my clients, that is what I take from it. So having to memorize meanings is not a hard and fast rule. If you want to, that's great. More than welcome to. Over the years, because I have been reading tarot for myself and professionally almost 20 years now, I just along the way have like just come to know what the meanings, the traditional meanings for each card is. And that's just something that happens whenever you are continuously reading books about tarot or, just getting tarot and listening to tarot creators and tarot podcasts, and things like that. That's just something that comes along with time, but don't feel like you have to memorize the meanings before you can read for yourself or others or just in general. Okay. Not letting others touch your deck. I am against this. Whenever I am reading for a client, I do have them shuffle the deck. So usually I will take 3 to 4 decks with me, and the client will pick which one they want their reading to be done with. And so they do touch each one, they look through it, they see what artwork calls to them, and once they have picked that deck, then they shuffle. Did they think of their question? Did they do all of the things, right? Some people believe that no one else should touch your decks but you, because it will leave the other person's energy on that deck. Now, do I think that my client's energy may be left on that deck? Maybe, but that's why I cleanse my decks between each reading. I cleanse them, I shuffle them myself, so it gets my energy put back into that deck. And then when my next client gets there, or when I read for someone next with that deck, it only has my energy on it, right? So psychic abilities, or some psychic ability is needed to read the cards. I believe that every single person has gifts and has abilities, and I believe that psychic ability and like intuition, things like that are kind of like muscles, right? If you don't use them, they will atrophy, and then they won't work, they won't move, they won't do what you want them to do. So just like with learning a new skill, or just with like reading tarot, with practice you get better, with practice you get more comfortable, with practice you learn your flow, you get to know your process. When I first started reading for people, how I did it then versus how I do it now is completely different, because over the years I have defined my process. I have found what I am comfortable with. I have found what puts me in the mindset to read for someone, right? So just like with psychic abilities, it's kind of like if you don't use it, you lose it type of situation. If you don't work that muscle, it's not going to be there. I think everyone has a little bit of a witch inside them, and I think that everyone has a little bit of gifts that can lend them to the craft. So some people think that you are supposed to store your tarot decks in a certain way, whether that be in a box with like herbs and crystals, whether that be wrapped in a silk scarf, whether that be under your pillow or under your bed, or whatever way you want to store your tarot decks is a way that you want to store your tarot decks, right? My tarot decks are all on a shelf over here. They are all lined up. They're usually in the boxes that they came in, unless unless they're that really thin, just like flip top boxes. They crumble and break so easily that I will usually either make or purchase a bag to put them in. And then that's what they live in. But otherwise, they just stay in the box that I purchased them in, and then they go on my shelf. I do cleanse them regularly. I take them out, I shuffle them just so they don't get like stagnant. But I have almost 100 decks, so they are just over there on the shelf. Tarot, and that is the just like 6 main things that I see a lot that people make assumptions or feel like they have to do a certain way with tarot. Now I'm going to tell a little story, because this also goes into assumptions that people make. So this past, like, I think it was the 25th, the Saturday before Halloween, I went to read tarot at a little at a tattoo shop here locally around me. They were doing a Halloween flash, like tattoo flash sale. And so I set up to read tarot, and just, having conversations with the tattoo artist and the clients and things like that. People had these same assumptions. One gentleman said that he was afraid to get his tarot read because he was afraid that I would pull the death card, and that literally means, that he or someone is going to die. It's not the case. I'm not going to say that the death card never means literal death, but it hardly ever means literal death. It just means transition. It means change. It means shedding of the old so you can become new. It means, maybe just like changing your focus and looking at something else. It means, a life shift. It rarely means actual death, right? Another one said that he was also very nervous about getting his tarot read because he didn't want to know his future. He didn't want to know what was going to come or what was going to happen. And so back to, my first no future, predictions, I had to explain to him that that's not how I read tarot. That's not how I interpret the tarot. And so he didn't have to have that to be weary or afraid of, because that's not how I read tarot. I also, just a little snippet about me, I do not read tarot for medical questions, and I do not read tarot, what's the other one? Medical. I think medical is my main one, for medical situations, medical outcomes, things like that, because that is such a tender topic, and I would never want to influence someone to potentially not listen or not have conversations with medical professionals. So I keep away from medical or health questions. I will not read for those. But those are my 6 main assumptions that I hear people have about tarot, and how I believe they are not true, and how I believe that tarot works. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you have any assumptions that you have heard people have about tarot, or even witchcraft in general, I get it, there's a lot about tarot, put them down below. We can chat and have a talk about it. I love having conversations about tarot and kind of demystifying it and kind of making it not as scary for people. So I thank you so much for stopping by. Do all the things for my channel: share, subscribe, like, leave a comment. I really, really, really appreciate it. This is what I love to do, and I'm trying to get better at it. So thank you so much for stopping by. I will see you next time. Bye.